Good morning. Good morning, family. So my friend, the Reverend Dr. Monica Cummings, says when she addresses a congregation or a group, good morning, family. We are indeed one family. And reminded of that day to day in these times. It is good to be together. I want to welcome you to worship at Palomar Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where no matter who you are, wherever you are welcome. We begin each service with lighting a candle of acknowledgement, acknowledging the land that we are on. I am on the stolen land of the Luiseño Nation and the Kumeyaay Nation. I invite you to learn about the land wherever you are. If you're joining us from San Diego, if you're near the fellowship, it's the Luiseño and the Kumeyaay land. Other places, it's Kumeyaay. We'll give you the opportunity to learn about that and to join us in lighting an acknowledgement candle where you are. I'm grateful for the participants in this morning's service who helped bring us together. Kimberly Lilly, Christina Sanford, Maritza Sanders, Katya Hansen, Michael Muffson. It is good, and all who create behind the scenes, it is good to be together. We are creating a sanctuary for people seeking and finding their own answers to questions of faith. We create a sanctuary for voices lifted up for justice and for peace. We create a sanctuary for those seeking companionship in our struggles and our journeys. We create a sanctuary. We create a sanctuary for the renewal of the mind. We create a sanctuary from which to move out into the world in multiple ways these days. A sanctuary is a place to deepen, to be restored, to learn to be sanctuary for others, to be a sanctuary for others, a living sanctuary. A sanctuary is a container. And we are called to be a sanctuary to hold the voices of outrage and pain, insisting to be heard. Let us hear, let us see, let us act, let us be a sanctuary. Beloveds, it is good to be together.
The Spark Between by Teresa I. Soto. There must be fuel. There must be a spark, and there must be oxygen. We have principles and ethics, the fuel of the fire we would light. The spark is what passes between us, along with our aliveness, our possibility. Spirit moving in us is our clear invitation, embossed, addressed, sealed with wax, tied with ribbon. The spark is a seed of fire that must be treasured and tended, that it may bring the light. We have passion, the air without which nothing thrives, least of all the blaze of covenant, justice, and kindness we would illuminate, both with who we are and what we do. All of these, an invitation to bring to life the blaze of liberation that is meant to light our way, to dispel the fog of cruelty and grief. It brings us instead to a hearth around which we gather to be nourished, energized, and warmed. and where we get ready to disperse. Enlivened. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Friends, we come together each week to name our joys and our sorrows, to acknowledge what's going on in our lives, to acknowledge what is going on in our world. And this morning, I come with the awareness, with the acknowledgement of the pain in our country at this time, with the pain of our siblings of color, of our Black siblings whose fear, outrage is being felt like a ripple. And so this morning, I'm inviting us into a ritual of lament and action. Now, to lament is to open our hearts, to feel pain, to mourn. And of course, we wish to move to action. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm going to invite you into a ritual of lament and action that is adapted from Reverend Erica Hewitt, and she adapted elements of this from Carol Sissel, who used these elements in a ritual that she created for the promise and the practice. If you have your bowl of water and salt, I ask you to have that ready in just a moment. This has been a week of outrage and lament. The deep generational trauma of white supremacy in our country made itself known again when George Floyd died in Minneapolis under a police officer's knee. It was a 21st century lynching, and it wasn't an isolated act of white violence. It's what's happening to Black and brown people for centuries, for millennia. As I do so often, I invite you to breathe with me. Even as we hold the paradox of the breath. I invite the breath that we are aware that George Floyd said he could not breathe. Invite you to use the chat to write the name of any one of the many Black people who have been killed through white violence. If you identify as white, our grief must also be a reckoning. It must be a reckoning that this violence is at the heart of our country's origin story. As Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, author of the Indigenous Peoples History of the United States, has written, the founding of a state based on the ideology of white supremacy, the widespread practice of African slavery, and a policy of genocide and land theft. We will not ignore George Floyd's death or its terrible context. We have a metastatic racism, says Ibram X. Kendi, and it is literally killing America. It is killing Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It is killing the soul of this country, or what is left of it. Here is my bowl of water and some salt. If you haven't already, I invite you to add some salt to your bowl of water. If you are able to do that, if you have your bowl with water and salt, use your hand to stir into the water, to submerge your fingers into it like a sacrament, a promise, to put ourselves into the holy work of anti-racism. Bring your fingers to your mouth so you can taste the salty water as a reminder of the grief and trauma inflicted on Black and brown bodies in this country. For some here, it may be that the grief and the pain is your own body, the bodies of your beloved ones. This is a legacy of pain that has to be dismantled and healed. That is our call. Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, Ahmaud Arbery, Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Chinedu Okibi, Justin Damond, Trayvon Martin, Rekia Boyd, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner. So many names that we would be here for hours writing their names in the chat. And this is what we know. Our tears aren't enough. Our anger isn't even enough. But our lamentation and outrage drive us to act, to hold vigil, to make calls, to offer financial support, to interrupt harmful conversations, to initiate uncomfortable conversations with those who would rather look away. May these tears, these salty tears, be a beginning. May we keep going. We'll get there.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, we are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Thank you, Kimberly. Heaven knows where we are going, but we will get there. And we have somewhere to go, don't we? We don't know how, and the road will be rough. It has shown us that time and time again. We will be allies, supporters, and defenders as needed in a covenant of sorts, and we will get there. Our religious tradition of Unitarian Universalism is built not around a creed, but around a covenant. Covenant not only describes the relationship between the minister and the congregation, but also the congregation with itself, other Unitarian Universalist churches, and our allies. Many of us take our covenant out into the wider world, which is much needed right now. It is essential that we live our faith, demonstrating our profound respect for diversity, sustaining our service, and maintaining a safe environment for everyone. Our 7 principles outline for us the way forward. The first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Every person. The second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. This one's hard for some people to understand, and that is why it is here and why it is so important. We must address and change the systematic and cultural issues that make life an uphill battle for some, so that all humans are treated as humans. The fifth principle, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and the wider society at large. The democratic process is under threat in the society at large, and we will work to protect it. The sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Nothing less than true peace, active liberty, and equal justice for all will be enough. These are a few of the principles that are set as the foundation for our covenant, something that imperfect people came together to write, to try and create a more perfect way to be together, grow together, and work towards goals together. Our goal here is clear. In mutual love and grace, we journey together, grounded in a profound respect for diversity of beliefs and ideas, sustained by service and shared ministry, enriched through collective spiritual deepening, and a safe environment for all generations to thrive. Please join me. Together, we are more than we would ever be alone. Therefore, we promise to practice radical hospitality, mindful communication, and active stewardship. Thus, do we covenant with each other.
Will you just repeat after me? I can hear my neighbor crying, saying, I can't breathe. And now I'm in the struggle, saying, I can't leave. We're calling out the violence of the racist police, and we ain't gonna stop until the people are free. Choir, will you help me out? Will y'all please stand and help me out? Will y'all please stand? And now I'm in the struggle, saying are free.
Until the people are free.
I can hear my neighbor. I can
Hear my neighbor crying,
saying,
saying I can't breathe.
and now I'm in the struggle.
I'm in the struggle,
Saying,
saying I can't leave.
we're calling out the violence
Calling out the violence
of the races,
racist police.
and we ain't gonna stop
And we ain't gonna stop
until the people are free.
until the people are free.
We ain't gonna stop.
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 We ain't gonna stop. We ain't gonna stop.
We ain't gonna stop.
We ain't gonna stop.
We ain't gonna stop.
We ain't gonna stop.
We ain't gonna stop.
We ain't gonna stop.
We ain't gonna stop
We ain't gonna stop
until the people are free.
I can hear my neighbor crying, saying I can't breathe. And now I'm in the struggle, saying I can't leave. I'm calling out the violence of the racist police, and we ain't gonna stop until the people are free. In 2014, Eric Garner was confronted by New York City police officers on the suspicion of selling cigarettes on the street. He was grabbed in a chokehold and wrestled to the ground with multiple officers restraining him. As he laid with his face on the ground, he said, "I can't breathe," 11 times. Last Monday, George Floyd was taken out of his car, not resisting, and was murdered by police officers, one of whom had his knee on Floyd's neck, while 3 others knelt on him for 7 minutes. Pinned under the knee of Derek Chauvin, Floyd pleaded, "Please, I can't breathe. Please, man, please, somebody. Please, man, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't move. Mama, mama. Please, sir." He said, "Please, sir," begging for his life, while other officers looked on. And before and in between these 2 Black men saying, "I can't breathe," there have been countless other occasions of the stealing of breath of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Breonna Taylor, shot in her own home. Ahmaud Arbery was murdered by 2 white men because he was jogging while Black in a neighborhood that they thought he didn't belong in. Wednesday, trans Black man Tony McDade. The killing of Black men and women are too numerous to name and detail in the time we have here. And we have heard our neighbors crying, saying, "I can't breathe." And what are we waiting for? To be in the struggle and saying, "I can't leave." It seems the wait is over as people flooded the streets in protest. Enough is enough. And so people have taken to the streets. Peaceful protests have been met with tear gas and rubber bullets. When weeks before, armed white people occupied state capitals and the police stood by. Do not believe all that you see on the media. White supremacists infiltrating the protests and inciting violence, hand-wringing about property, that devalues the human lives that have been taken. Calls for law and order when the laws do not apply to those who are targeted or those doing the targeting. And when the order supports and is a function of white supremacy. Call it an uprising, call it a rebellion. Do not call it a riot. No more waiting. We're calling out the violence of the racist police and the white supremacy culture in which it and we are implicated and linked. And we ain't gonna stop until the people are free. This cannot be a time when this passes. And I think we're in the middle of a pandemic, of course. And prior to this and over the decades, the images that come are replaced with others and others and others until it seems as though we move on. And we know for those among us who are Black and brown and targeted, it never, ever, ever, ever passes. And one officer charged with third-degree murder is not a panacea for that pandemic of racist violence. Amidst a pandemic that disproportionately takes the lives of Black people, brown people, and indigenous people, there is no simple panacea for that pandemic of white supremacy. We rise together, and we struggle together, and we get free together. Reverend Dr. William J. Barber said yesterday, America must listen to its wounds. They will tell us where to look for hope. Only if the screams and tears our protests shake the very conscience of this nation can we hope for a better society on the other side of this. And he said, don't rush to put this behind us and to move on. That is the impulse when all these images come to us amidst a pandemic, and worry and care legitimately for our own lives and the lives of the people that we love. And we are invited to continue to hear our neighbor crying. The song that we heard by Reverend Sekou and the Holy Ghost was performed at the closing ceremony of our Unitarian Universalist General Assembly in 2016. Where, once again, people of color in our denomination challenged and called those of us who are white to hear, to see, to understand the nature of white supremacy within our association, in our society, in ourselves. We hear our neighbors' cries over and over. And we stay in the struggle because we can't leave. Once you hear their cries, we stay in the struggle because we can't leave. We keep calling out the violence of the racist police and the racist system that causes policy violence as well, that steals the breath of people. Just as surely as COVID-19 steals the breath. And so now the questions are, what are we waiting for? Today is Pentecost in the Christian tradition. And I had other things to say about that this morning. But the upshot of it is that those disciples, 40 days after Jesus was killed by the empire, were uncertain of their own fate and scared. What would happen to them? There were people outside. It was a big time of also the Jewish festival And so people were coming from all over, and they're like, what is going to happen to us? And they lost their voices until, as promised, the spirit of love came down and empowered them to speak the truth. The truth of an unmitigated love for all of humanity, for all people. And we are told that people hearing them speak came from different places and different languages, and everyone could understand what they said. And people are like, are these guys drunk? No, they can't be drunk. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. What is going on? And so they could be understood because the language that they spoke was the language of love, and an empowered love that moves to action. Because what we're told later on in Acts is that the community pooled all of their resources together and held everything in common. A new economic system where everyone has what they need. Perhaps that is a model or a lesson for us today as we consider economic justice and its implications in our society. What is ours to do? What are we waiting for? For those of us who are white, it is to be accountable for understanding and transforming white supremacy within and without, to support siblings of color by doing our own work, and to say and to ask where, when, and how to show up. As I begin to close, I'd like to share words with you from Ashley Horan, who is the Director of Organizing Strategies for the Unitarian Universalist Association. She wrote a beautiful letter. She's from Minnesota, from Minneapolis, and wrote a wonderful letter that I can share with you on social media and in an email if you would like. Written to her city, to her Black, Brown, Indigenous siblings, indicating that she was praying and committed, as we know Ashley Horan to be, right? So this is what she wrote. To my white family and siblings and comrades, specifically my white Unitarian Universalist siblings in faith. What is happening tonight is not about other people, other communities, other institutions. Praying in that way will only make us armchair quarterbacks as we turn away from the things we are responsible for doing in our own families and neighborhoods and nation. But I want to speak specifically what we can do as people who are part of religious communities and congregations. Here it is, she says. Let's get serious together, starting now. Let's not spend another minute fretting about upsetting people by using the words white supremacy. Let's have genuine conversations about making reparations with our endowments. Let's develop the skills and comfort with conflict to recognize bad behavior that springs from white supremacy culture among us, to circle around it and cut it off and shut it down without delay. Let us get real about the resources, human, infrastructural, financial, that we have access to as individuals and faith communities, and get to the work of redistributing them. Let's move some serious money to Black liberation organizing. Let's create spaces that foster our own healing and joy and connection and repair. I'm praying for us too. I'm going to repeat that last line. Let's create spaces that foster our own healing and joy and connection and repair. Once again, I am speaking about joy and connection amidst the need for healing and repair. And what is this joy, and how dare I speak of it? This joy is the joy that comes from knowing our deep interconnectedness, from responding to the deep call within us, around us, and through us, hearing our neighbors' cries, saying, I can't breathe, and being in the struggle because we can't leave. The joy comes from deep commitment and deep community and deep communion with the Holy Spirit of life and love that moves through us, that blows through us, that enlivens, enlightens, empowers, emboldens our speech and our actions. And this is what I know because I have this impulse. Maybe no one else does. But my impulse is to do something right now and make it stop and make it better now. As if there would be one thing I could do, one protest for me to show up to make it all better, to make it go away. And what I know is that that is also a sign of my own discomfort. But the struggle is long, and freedom is hard won in a system designed to deny it. That does not mean, beloved ones, that show up where you can, where it is safe for you to do so. With your physical bodies. Not all of us can bring our physical bodies to some of the places that we would like to be. However, there are things that we can and will continue to do in our congregation. Continue the anti-racism work. Listen to people of color in our congregation and open ears to and eyes to see what we must learn. And we heard Christina talk about how our UU principles call us during this time. I call us to affirming the 8th principle of our faith, that we affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. You have heard and will hear more about what it might look like for us as a congregation to pass this principle and to enact it and to live it and to love ourselves into the journey toward wholeness, love ourselves and each other. There is more to do. Rachel Rott and I have been sharing resources. So many are coming to us that we're curating them, and we'll be putting things out so that we can all know. One of the things that is so in my heart this morning is hearing so many people reaching out to me. What can I do? What can I do now? There'll be things that you can do now. And there'll be things that we will do for the long haul. This is messy, difficult, painful, joy-filled, redemptive work. And let us remember that we are not alone in this work. I would like to invite you, in the words of the Reverend William Sinkford, he would say, invite you to join me in that space of silence and honesty, known by many names. Will you pray with me? Spirit of life, Spirit of love, you who have coaxed creation into being and moved through the waters, the parted seas, that moves through us, awakening within us a love for and a call for justice. Spirit of life, move through us now. Help us to remember that we are never alone, that you are as close as the breath. Pneuma, ruha, breath. We acknowledge the preciousness of the breath amidst a virus that would steal it and amidst violence that would take it. May, with every breath that we have, we speak words of love, of resistance, of hope, of empowerment. With every breath we take, may we feel our oneness and hear the cries and work together to bring about the justice that we seek to roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. May it be so. Amen. And I love you.
Thank you. We gather each week to affirm this community. Part of this affirmation is acknowledging that we all share with one another our time, our talents, and our resources. We live our values by sharing half of our undesignated collection with a local nonprofit organization. This quarter, the plate share goes to URISE, the Unitarian Universalist Refugee and Immigrant Services and Education. URISE's work is as important now as ever. If you are currently in a position to give or to continue making your pledge payments, there are several ways to do that, even in the midst of shelter in place. You can write a check and mail it to our office, or check with our office administrator to find out how to set up payments through our database. Or it's very easy to donate through the text to give. You can see the instructions on the screen. Thank you.
This is the time as we conclude our service where we are encouraged to do what we need to do to shelter in place, to be safe during this time as we kind of shift into seemingly new phases, to stay away, to stay connected. This morning, after our worship, and we leave the webinar and are joined together in our Zoom meeting for breakout sessions, Rachel Rott and I will be holding a breakout room where we will just gather, if you'd like, to talk about what you've heard today, what we can do, how we can be together. There'll be caucus space for people of color who would like to join that and can let Katya know that. And there are other ways that we will continue to stay connected, and we invite you to be aware of that. In a moment, I'm going to invite us to light our and extinguish our chalice. This is one of the things that I want to notice, that my acknowledgement candle and my chalice never go out on this patio. I think it's a miracle, because I think that spirit is here. That those, when you see your candle, think about those tongues of fire and how amazingly frightening it must have been at that time to feel moved and then to speak words of power and empowerment. So I invite you to join me in our chalice extinguishing words. Although we extinguish this flame, we carry in our hearts the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment until we are together again. In a moment, we are going to hear our closing song, Building a New Way. The image that accompanies that song was taken in December of 2017, where we kicked off the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. And this is one of the things that we know, that the violence that is being put upon communities of color is ongoing violence. These deaths wake us up to the depth of violence that occurs. I invite you to join me in the Poor People's Campaign on June 20, 2020, so that we can digitally join a mass Poor People's Assembly and march on Washington, because we can hear our neighbors crying, saying, I can't breathe. And now we're in the struggle, saying we can't leave. We're going to call out the violence of racist police and racist practices and racist policies, and we're not going to stop until the people are free. And we're going to build a new way. May it be so.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free of hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world would die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Here we go, beloveds. Go in peace. Be makers of peace, of a righteous, raucous, outrageous peace that says no justice, no peace. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.